Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday, February 9th. I hope that you all have had a great week and you are enjoying your weekend. Thank you so much for joining me today as I talk to you about going through the fire. And I'm going to actually talk to you about two different types of fires. So, the first fire, I was reading Daniel chapter 3, and it's where King Nebuchadnezzar had the gold statue built, and anybody who refused to bow down to that statue was thrown into the fiery furnace. And then the second type of fire I'm going to be talking about is the fire of your tests and trials. So make sure you have your Bibles, your pens, your journals, and your coffee, and let's get started. So as I said, the first fire is going to be from Daniel chapter 3. And I am going to read Daniel chapter 3, and it's going to be from the Living King, not the Living King, I'm sorry, the Living Translation. And I picked that translation because it's easier to understand. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Verse 1, King Nebuchadnezzar made a gold statue 90 feet high and 9 feet wide and set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then he sent messages to all the princes, governors, captains, judges, treasurers, counselors, sheriffs, and rulers of all the provinces of his empire to come to the dedication of his statue. When they had all arrived and were standing before the monument, a herald shouted out, "O people of all nations and languages, this is the king's command. When the band strikes up, you are to fall flat on the ground to worship King Nebuchadnezzar's gold statue. Anyone who refuses to obey will immediately be thrown into a flaming furnace." So when the band began to play, everyone, whatever his nation, language, or religion, fell to the ground and worshiped the statue. But some officials went to the king and accused some of the Jews of refusing to worship. "Your Majesty," they said to him, "you made a law that everyone must fall down and worship the gold statue when the band begins to play, and that anyone who refuses will be thrown into a flaming furnace. But there are some Jews out there, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, whom you have put in charge of Babylonian affairs, who have defied you, refusing to serve your gods or to worship the gold statue you set up." Then Nebuchadnezzar, in a terrible rage, ordered Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to be brought in before him. "Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego," he demanded, "that you are refusing to serve my gods or to worship the gold statue I set up? I'll give you one more chance. When the music plays, if you fall down and worship the statue, all will be well. But if you refuse, you will be thrown into a flaming furnace within the hour. And what God can deliver you out of my hands then?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not worried about what will happen to us. If we are thrown into the flaming furnace, our God is able to deliver us, and he will deliver us out of your hand, your Majesty. But if he doesn't, please understand, sir, that even then we will never, under any circumstance, serve your gods or worship the gold statue you have erected." So I'm going to stop right here for a moment. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego told King Nebuchadnezzar that even if he threw them into the fire, that God would deliver them out of the flames. And then they said that even if God does not deliver us, we still will not bow down to that statue or serve your gods. So I want you to keep that in mind as I continue reading in verse 19. Then Nebuchadnezzar was filled with fury, and his face became dark with anger at Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He commanded that the furnace be heated up 7 times hotter than usual, and called for some of the strongest men of his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the fire. So they bound them tight with ropes and threw them into the furnace fully clothed. And because the king in his anger had demanded such a hot fire in the furnace, the flames leaped out and killed the soldiers as they threw them in. So I'm going to pause right here too. So the fire was so hot that as the soldiers threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the furnace, the soldiers died. So mind you, if that fire was hot enough to kill those soldiers, it should have also been hot enough to immediately kill Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego before they even got thrown into the fire. But they did not get killed. So I'm going to continue. Verse 23. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego fell down, bound into the roaring flames. But suddenly, as he was watching, Nebuchadnezzar jumped up in amazement and exclaimed to his advisors, "Didn't we throw 3 men into the furnace?" "Yes," they said, "we did indeed, your majesty." "Well, look," Nebuchadnezzar shouted, "I see 4 men unbound walking around in the fire, and they aren't even hurt by the flames, and the 4th looks like a god." Then Nebuchadnezzar came as close as he could to the open door of the flaming furnace and yelled, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out here." So they stepped out of the fire. Then the princes, governors, captains, and counselors crowded around them and saw that the fire hadn't touched them. Not a hair of their heads was singed. Their coats were unscorched, and they didn't even smell of smoke. Then Nebuchadnezzar said, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, for he sent his angels to deliver his trusted servants when they defied the king's commandment and were willing to die, whether they serve or worship any god except their own. Therefore, I make this decree that any person of any nation, language, or religion who speaks a word against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be torn limb from limb and his house knocked into a heap of rubble. For no other God can do what this one does." Then the king gave promotions to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego so that they prospered greatly there in the province of Babylon. So from reading that, we can see that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they refused to bow down to that statue, and they refused to serve any other god. And they were even willing to die before they would do it. So many, and I'm getting to the point that the way that this world is going, the end of the days is here. Like, Jesus is coming back any moment, and we can see, like, as we watch the news and, read newspapers, we hear and see all the time all the craziness that's going on in the world. Murders are rising. They have all this sex trafficking stuff going on. They have, satanic rituals and things happening. Like, everything is increasing and is getting more evil each and every day. And there are so many agendas that's, getting passed, and laws getting passed, and, everybody's fighting for something. You have, like, the Me Too movement, and you have the Black Lives Matter movement, and then you have the gay rights movement, and you have the abortion movement. Like, you have all these different agendas and movements going on, and they are considered statues. It's getting to the point where you're gonna have to pick a side. You're either going to, I'll say, for instance, and I'm not, telling people what to do with the body or anything, but I'll go with abortion. I am strongly against abortion. And, the way that it's going, and this attack on Christians, if you really pay attention to what is going on in this world, everything is trying to go against God. And it's trying to take away everything that God and Christianity stands for. And Christians are made to look like we're the villains, like we're the evil ones, because we are, standing by God's word and saying what God says. And, we have, where God says, that you shouldn't kill. Excuse me. So a lot of Christians are against abortion. A lot of Christians are against homosexuality. A lot of Christians are against, all the stuff that's going on in the world. But the day is coming, you might not be faced with any of these issues yet, but the time is going to come very soon. I'm thinking within the next year or two, where it is going to be in your face. And it's going to be that statue of, where do you stand? You're going to have to pick a side. Are you on this? If somebody comes up to you and they say, and it might be on your job. If your boss comes to you and says, for instance, if you are a teacher, if your boss comes to you and the school system, says you're going to have to teach about gay sex or homosexual sex in the classroom, like with sex education, or you're going to have to include books about, homosexual couples and, homosexual families and things like that. As a Christian saved teacher, you know that that goes against God. And the choice is going to be either you are going to teach this and keep your job, or you're going to be fired and lose your job. And that, in that situation, that job or that, curriculum is the fire, or it's not the fire, but it's the gold statue, like the Nebuchadnezzar statue. That curriculum is a statue, and you losing your job or facing a lawsuit is your fire. And my question to you is, are you going to stand your ground like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and say, I'm not going to teach that curriculum. I'm not going to go against God and my religion. And if I go to jail because you want to sue me, fine. If you want to fire me and I lose my job, fine. Or are you going to cower and say, you know what, I need, this job because I got bills to pay and I got to take care of my family and, all of this. I got to make ends meet. So, you know what, God, my heart, I know that God will forgive me. And, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to teach this job. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bow down to this statue because I got to pay my bills and I got to live. And unfortunately, a lot of people are going to cower and they're going to bow down to that statue. Excuse me. And, God is looking for people like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego that are going to say, no, you know what? No matter what happens, if even I am willing to die doing what God says and living the way that God tells me to live versus going against him. Like, they reverenced and feared God so much that they were like, you know what? You can throw us in that fire if you want to. We don't care if we get burned alive. Because, first of all, they knew they were going to be with God if God did not deliver them. But they had so much faith in God that they knew that God was going to deliver them. And, in this life, like, you have choices. We all have choices that we have to make every single day. And sometimes those choices are easy. Sometimes those choices are not easy. But you have to stand on the side of God. If you are saved and you call yourself God's child, you have to stand for the things that God stands for. Sorry, guys. I'm hoping that this cough is going to be gone soon. But anyway, you have to get like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and just say, I am willing to die for this. I am, or have so much faith in God that you say, you know what, I know that God is going to deliver me from this. And don't be afraid. Like, if you lose your job, you cannot be afraid. I know it's not easy because in your human mind, you're thinking, okay, you have all these bills, you have a family, and you do need money to survive. You have bills and stuff to pay. But at the end of the day, you got to remember that God is your source. The job that you work every day is not your source. The government is not your source. Your family, your husband, your wife, they are not your sources. Your source is God. And God will provide for you. God will pay your bill. God can supernaturally erase any debt that you have. Your house could supernaturally be paid for. Your car can supernaturally be paid for. Or if it's not supernaturally paid for, God will get that money to you so that you can pay your bills on time every month. Even if you have no money coming in, God can get money to you so that you can pay your bills, so that you can get your groceries, so that you can put gas in your car. It is, where is your faith? If you are so dependent on this material world, and let me tell you something else about the government. You cannot depend on nothing and no one in this world but God. People will leave you. People will betray you. The government can fail. We all saw what happened with the shutdown that lasted for about a month. And I won't be surprised if another one comes and lasts even longer than that. But you see right there that the government is not your source. Like, people that work for the government, they couldn't pay their bills. The food stamps system was, failing. people were struggling, to get the food stamps. And so you can't look at dependent on government. And you cannot be bowing down to these statues, no matter what it comes. If it comes to somebody saying, something about homosexuality, like there was a story in the news about the Christian baker who had a homosexual couple come in. I think they were getting married or something, and they wanted him to make a cake with a certain image on it, and he was like, I'm not gonna put that image on that cake because it goes against my religion. They sued him, it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And thankfully, the Supreme Court ruled in the favor of the baker and said that he does not have to put that image on the cake or if he doesn't want to. And he didn't say that he would make the cake. He just said, he wasn't going to put the image up there. But he did not bow down to that statue. And his fire was he got sued. He had to go to court, all the way to the Supreme Court. And God came through, and to the point where it's, it ruled in his favor that he does not have to make this cake, and his business, is going to stay open. But if it's somebody that, is not strong in their faith, they aren't strong in their relationship with God, they would have cowered at the mention of a lawsuit. They would have said, you know what? I don't want any trouble. I don't want to, hash this out in court. I'll just go ahead and make the cake and put that image on there. Or whatever image you want me to put on this cake, I'll go ahead, God forgive me. God knows that I'm against this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway because I don't want to go to court and face any lawsuits because of this. And, people are going to cower. Everybody that says that they're a Christian, if they are not solid and strong in their faith and their commitment and their relationship with God, they are going to cower at the first sign of somebody threatening them with a lawsuit, threatening them with going to prison, threatening them with losing their job, threatening them with losing their life or whatever it is. And they're going to bow to that statue and then, have to repent for it later, if they even have the opportunity to repent. So you have to, whatever statues rise up in your life, you have to have the mindset of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego that says, no matter what, I am not bowing down to this statue. I don't care if you threaten to kill me. I don't care. You can have that gun right there to my head. I'm going to trust and believe that God will jam up that gun, or either he'll, open up their eyes supernaturally so they can see the angels all around me, and then they'll be the ones running away in fear. Or even if God does not deliver me, I am willing to die to stay in right standing with him. And you shouldn't be afraid to die anyway. If you're living right and you're saved and your name is in that Lamb's Book of Life, you're going to heaven anyway. So you should not be afraid to die. But you have to get serious about your relationship with God and standing firm in the things of God. This world is about to be a lawless world that's probably be getting rid of, laws. Pretty soon it's going to be an anything goes society. Do what you want to do. Say what you want to say. Live how you want to live. It's going to be a modern day Sodom and Gomorrah, probably worse than Sodom and Gomorrah. So you better make sure that you got your life together and ask yourself, take a hard look at yourself and put yourself in these situations and say, if somebody came to me today and told me that I had to accept, abortion, or I had to accept gay marriage, or I had to accept, whatever it is, am I going to cower to that because they're threatening to take away my job, or they're threatening to take away my, finances, or whatever it is, my life? Am I going to cower to that so that I can hold on to this materialistic things and jeopardize my relationship with God? Or am I going to just say, you know what? No, I'm not going to bow down to that statue. I'm not going to jeopardize my relationship with God. You can do whatever it is that you want to do. I am standing on the side of God. So you need to ask yourself those questions. Moving on to the second type of fire. So the second type of fire is the fire from your tests and trials. So your tests and trials come, like I said in previous videos, they really come to build your faith, and they come for God to show himself strong in your life. And when you go through your tests and your trials, while you're going through it, it's difficult, it's hard, you can't see any way out of it. It feels like it's going to go on forever. But on the other side, when you come out of that fire, it's going to be your blessings. You're going to see all of why you had to go through what it is that you went through. And you can't throw in the towel the moment that you feel like giving up, the moment that you feel like you cannot go another day. That's when you know that your breakthrough is around the corner. And when your breakthrough comes, you are going to have an amazing testimony, and people are going to be looking at you, and they're going to be people that know that you've been going through. They've seen you going through the fire, and when you come out on the other side, they're going to be like, wow, like you went through all of that, you're still standing, and you are better off than you were before. Like, God is going to really show himself strong in your life. And when you come out of that fire, you will not be smelling like smoke. Not a thread of your hair will be singed. So people that don't know you and haven't seen your struggles, they're going to think that you never had to go through anything before in your life, because you are not going to look like all the things that you've been through. So you have to keep that in mind and say, although I'm going through this, although I can't see a way out, although I'm crying myself to sleep every night, it's a struggle for me to get up in the morning and get going, because of everything that I'm going through, all the pain, all this, the suffering, the brokenness, it's taking its hold on me. But I know that if I just keep pushing, if I could just keep going, that God is going to bring me through, and I'm going to be better off than I was before. And then everything, your tests and your trials, is going to help someone else. Someone else that you probably don't even know is either going through what you are going through, or will at some point in their life go through what you are going through. And your testimony is going to help that person, because they're going to be able to say, if he or she went through this and they came out on the other side, and now they're doing well, they're blessed, they have all of, this material stuff. God has, completely blessed them and shown himself strong in their life. So I know if he did it for them, that he'll do it for me too. So that's another thing. When you go through the fire of your tests and trials, you have to remind yourself that somebody somewhere is going to benefit from me going through this. I'm going to be able to help someone else. And then when you go through that test and trial, when the next one comes, you're ready and you're prepared for it, because you can say, you know what, I've been through hell and back. I know that I have that strength in me. I know that God has me. And you might not feel God's presence while you're going through that test and trial. You might feel like you're in it all alone. Maybe God isn't speaking to you through those tests and trials, but you have to remember that God is with you every step of the way. And although you might not be hearing from him, keep praying, keep praising him, keep doing everything that you know to do, because he's right there with you. And it could be that he's not talking to you because he's fighting that battle for you. He's going ahead of you, and he's preparing that path for you. He's getting the enemy off of your back. So just keep pushing and just tell yourself, when I come out, I'm not going to smell like smoke. I'm going to, God is going to tremendously bless me. And, God is going to show just how good he is. You are going to know that God is the great I am when you come through this fire. So I hope that this video encouraged you guys. I hope it gave you something to think about, especially the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego situation. Because like I said, that day, if you haven't faced that day yet, that day of someone trying to make you bow down to something is going to hit you in the face very, very soon. And what side are you going to be on? But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you join me again next week. Enjoy the rest of your weekends. Please make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already. Press the bell so that you're notified when I upload new videos. Also, follow me on Instagram and Facebook. And if you are not subscribed to my blog, please subscribe there as well. And I will put all of that in the description box below. Please share this video, tell others about my channel, and again, thank you for watching. Bye.